4 days later, on the evening of April 14th, 1865, Lincoln made plans to attend a play called Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater in Washington. John Wilkes Booth had plans of his own. Learning that Lincoln would be at the theater, he too intended to be there with a fully loaded .44 caliber pistol. 1. A boy on the frontier. When first my father settled here, 'twas then the frontier line. The panther's scream filled night with fear, and bears preyed on the swine. Abraham Lincoln. The man who John Wilkes Booth planned to kill was born on February 12, 1809, in a one-room log cabin on a small, isolated farm in the backwoods of Kentucky. The cabin had a dirt floor and one window without glass. The land was rocky and poor, a barren waste, save some little patches on the creek bottoms. Abraham, who disliked the name Abe, lived with his parents and his sister Sarah, who was 2 years older. He would have had a younger brother as well, but Thomas died while still a baby. Abraham's parents had trouble growing enough food to feed the family, so when he was still a toddler, the Lincolns moved 10 miles north in search of more fertile land. They settled on the banks of Knob Creek, a stream so clear you could see a pebble at the bottom 10 feet down. While stunningly beautiful, the land wasn't much better for farming, with deep hollows and ravines surrounded by gorges that often flooded. Neighbors described the Lincolns as among the very poorest people. Abraham later recalled when my toes stuck out through my broken shoes in the winter, when my arms were out at the elbows, when I shivered with the cold. The Lincolns lived near the Cumberland Trail, the road leading from Nashville, Tennessee to Louisville, Kentucky. Abraham saw slave traders driving coffles of enslaved men and women along the trail. Abraham's family belonged to the separate Baptist church. They believed in predestination and followed a strict code of behavior condemning profanity, drunkenness, gossip, and horse racing. Not long before Abraham was born, there was a split in the local Baptist church over slavery. The Lincolns went with the anti-slavery group. Abraham absorbed his church's strict standards of behavior and anti-slavery sentiments. I am naturally anti-slavery, he later remarked. If slavery is not wrong, nothing is wrong. I cannot remember when I did not so think and feel. Abraham's roots went deep in American history. The first Lincolns came from Norwich, England, in 1637 and settled in Massachusetts. Some of Abraham's ancestors were Pennsylvania Quakers. His paternal grandparents settled in Virginia before moving to Kentucky to seek their fortunes. These grandparents headed west after a distant relative, Daniel Boone, told them about wide expanses of land on the other side of the Appalachian Mountains. When settlers from Virginia poured into what is now Kentucky and wrested the land from the Shawnee and other tribes, Abraham's paternal grandfather joined a militia and fought the native people. The family legend that, in Abraham's words, was more strongly than all the others imprinted upon my mind and memory, was the story of how his paternal grandfather died in an Indian attack. The story went like this. Abraham's grandfather was planting a cornfield not far from a Kentucky fort called Hughes Station with his 3 sons, Josiah, Mordecai, and Thomas, when an Indian shot him from the woods. The Indian who killed him was a Shawnee, a member of the tribe that had been driven from the land that Lincoln farmed. After the shot was fired, 14-year-old Mordecai ran to a nearby cabin and peeked from between the logs. He saw his youngest brother, 6-year-old Thomas, sobbing over their dead father's body, and an Indian coming from the woods toward the child. Mordecai grabbed a flintlock rifle, poked the muzzle between the logs, aimed at a silver pendant the Indian wore on his chest, and fired. He killed the Indian. The child